Hello, I think we've started. So thanks to everybody joining us for making the time to come and listen to us this evening. My name is Katie McAuliffe and I work in the faculty office for the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. And the aim of this evening's webinar is to give you an overview of our new programme LM031, the BA Professional Pathways. And I'll introduce you in a second to Dr. Chris McInerney. He's the course director, so he's the very person that you need to hear from to get an overview of the programme and its kind of unique aspects. For my part, I'll keep an eye on the Q&A. So there's a chat function that you'll see it on the bottom of your screen. It might be harder for some people to find it, but if you have questions, please put them in there because we love questions. Put us on the spot, put Chris on the spot, and we'll do our best to answer them. And it's good preparation anyway for a course like this where you're kind of expected to put up your hand and ask questions and give your opinion. So I'll hand it over to you, so Chris, maybe to introduce the programme and get started.
Great, thanks, Katie. I'm just going to share a screen here. I can't actually run this in presenter mode on the webinar, Katie, but I'll just see if this works.
No I'll keep an eye on
if not, I'll just run it as I'll just run it like this. Yeah, no problem. Can you see that? Okay.
Might just take a second for it to come up. It's still showing the the preview version where it's
okay,
just
so
the file.
let me just switch those.
No problem.
No, it's showing the wrong thing. Okay. Do you know what to do? I'm just going to run it without running it in presenter mode because we're on a webinar, it doesn't seem to be allowing me to do that. But okay, so we just go at it like this. So my name is Chris McInerney, as Katie said. I'm the course director for this new degree, BA Professional Pathways, LM031. I suppose you'll see on the title slide here that that this isn't just described as a new degree, but it's also a new way to learn. And I suppose you'll see as we go through it that the degree is designed to combine the strength of a traditional arts programme with a state-of-the-art focus on skills. And I suppose that's its main unique strength. To do this, we're combining 4 distinct professional pathways with a core of transferable skills, and I'll explain in a second what those professional pathways are. So essentially, we're taking subjects from our strengths in arts, humanities and social science, adding onto that transferable skills, which if you read any Irish government policy document, if you read policy documents from the European Commission, from the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, from the World Economic Forum, UNESCO, I haven't coming out my ear at this stage, the emphasis on transferable, or sometimes called transversal skills, is really all over the place and very, very prominent. The rationale for the course, I suppose, is that a well-defined professional pathway gives you direction and focus. And I suppose that's how it's quite distinct from a traditional BA Arts degree where you don't necessarily always have that clear vocational direction. So that allows you to gain knowledge and expertise in a particular field. And then you add that to transferable skills like communication, problem solving, leadership, critical thinking, adaptability. And with that, then we know you become a versatile, resilient and in-demand graduate. Why do we know it? Part it all from the fact that it's so commonly referenced to in all those organizations I was mentioning. We've also worked with industry and employers in the development of a number of degrees, including this one. And this is the message they're continually giving back to us. So just briefly to say what transferable skills are, as the name suggests, they are skills that transfer from one context to another, but they're seen as the type of skills that are increasingly necessary in the workplace and society of the 21st century to deal with complex problems in the workplace or complex problems in society. They're not situation or context specific. So on this course, students will be taking a core of 15 transferable skills. So they split apart and they do their individual professional pathway. But along with that, they take a core of transferable skills that I'll explain in a second. Overall, I suppose, if we were to say the type of skills that we are most concerned that students develop are things like collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, communication, problem solving, and also digital skills. And we also take the 6 of these and bring them together to ensure that students also have a focus on sustainability. So those are that's the broad transferable skills base, the pathways that students on the degree would take. The First one is public affairs. So this is not unlike an approach that you'll see in some arts degrees or European studies in the past in UL, which I did myself back in the Middle Ages. But this is designed for people who want to play a role in shaping, guiding and understanding society, or understanding politics, or understanding the administrative systems, or work in public affairs. And we see quite a number of our graduates have gone into, public relations consultancy. I saw one recently is now he's a public affairs manager in a rural development organization. So he's taken on a particular role in a particular sectoral organization. This mainly focuses on economics, sociology, politics, and public administration. The second pathway is social, economic, and physical planning. And as the name suggests, this is designed for people who have an interest in planning for the future, either social planning or economic planning. It could be, or it could be physical planning. I suppose the interesting thing with this is we know that there is huge demand in the country for people to take on either urban planning roles or urban design roles, or economic planning roles in public sector organizations, but also in private sector organizations. So we know that there's demand in this area. So students in this would mainly take modules in geography, economics, and public administration. So when I say they're taking those subjects, they wouldn't be taking the same modules necessarily as people who are doing economics and public affairs. This degree has been very carefully curated so that we pick modules that students can see relate to the pathway. Third pathway, communication and digital translation. This is really designed for the people who are going to be the translators of our increasingly digital world for people who are less comfortable in that digital space. So they will be the interpreters, the translators, they will be the communicators. So in this, I suppose it's quite different from the first two. Students will take module on digital culture, they'll take modules on journalism, communications, linguistics, and there's also an option to take a language. The final professional pathway is social, economic, and environmental change. So this is for people clearly who are interested in understanding the future of our societies, and particularly how they can move in a more sustainable and equitable direction. On this, again, you take specific modules in geography, economics, sociology, politics, and public administration. That might in the past have just been assumed to be an option for people who have a bit of an activist orientation. But increasingly, the whole concept of sustainability is very strongly informing how industry operates, whether it's in looking at their supply chains, whether it's in managing their relations with communities, whether it's in managing their environmental impact. So for public and private sector organizations, this is hugely important. So social, economic, environmental change, don't assume it's just for people who have an activist orientation working with non-governmental organizations, although it's certainly relevant to those. It's much broader. It's much broader than that. You can find more details of all of these pathways on our website. So there's also much more detail. So you'll be able to see exactly what subjects, what modules you'd study. I won't go through these now because it's too detailed, but you'll get a full idea of the type of modules, and also be able to see how they differentiate from each other depending on the different pathway. I will, however, name and tell you what transferable skills you will be doing. In the first year, we provide a strong foundation both in academic and digital capabilities, and then a more specific applied digital skills. This is particularly important in an AI age, that people have to have good quality digital skills. So we don't want anybody to be left behind on this course because your digital skills aren't up to scratch. Now, nothing to be frightened of, but it just gives people a very good foundation. In the second semester, you do, in each of or second year, you do 2 transferable skills modules in each semester: data literacy, ethics, values, and leadership. And then in the second semester, before people go on their work placement, you do modules in applied critical thinking and problem solving, particularly with a view to how you solve problems in the workplace. And then also a module on personal and professional competencies for the workplace. So again, we're very early on preparing people for the workplace. You, as I said, you go on an extended 8-month work placement on this course in the summer of second year and the first semester of third year. And then you come back and you do a full semester of transferable skills, research and its role in solving problems, innovation, creativity, and storytelling. And we met with a big multinational company, employs over 2,000 people in Limerick this morning, and they were absolutely super enthusiastic about the notion of staff being trained in storytelling. How do they communicate their messages, either internally in an organization or externally? We have a module on design thinking, or sometimes known as human-centered design. How do we design systems, products, approaches that puts people at the heart of them? Understanding AI and its social economic implications and planning for development are the final two there. And then in fourth year, we add modules on professional writing, and instead of a traditional final year project, we have a complex problem solving project. So we're really ramping up student skills in critical thinking and problem solving. And then in the final semester, we'll bring in practitioners from the workplace to talk about what the workplace looks like, what are the kind of issues and challenges they deal with. So what you're doing is you're combining this core of transferable skills with one of the 4 professional pathways. And what we're also doing now on this, and this will be, I suppose, for this students on this course, everybody will be completing an electronic portfolio from the very beginning of the skills that they're acquiring, so that they will be able to take all the skills from these modules. They'll be able to take skills from volunteering. They'll be able to take skills if they're involved in a club or society. They will be able to begin to gather evidence of that, and by the end of their time in UL, present a portfolio of, this is not just my degree, this is also my portfolio of skills. So in some way we could call it nearly like a degree plus, even though it's not formally called a degree plus, but you come out with 2 things. You come out with your degree and a capacity to demonstrate your skills, which is really important. So why is this important? I won't spend too long on this. The graphic you'll see is from the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report just published in January. They say by 2030, 39% of workers' core skills will have changed. So almost 40% of skills that we see workers having now will have changed. This just gives some idea about the speed of transition in the workplace, I suppose, and that's accelerated by things like artificial intelligence. So the degree allows an opportunity to focus on knowledge and skills. And essentially, I suppose we were calling this, you can future-proof your skills, because these transferable skills do not go out of fashion. Whatever other skills people will lose, these kind of human-centered transferable skills won't go out of fashion. So we think that the degree, I suppose, is designed and intended to help future-proof. Again, the requirements on this, the only thing I'll highlight, I suppose, it's the same requirements for our main BA Arts programme. We don't have points on this because it's a brand new course. Sorry, we don't know what the points are. It's not that there won't be points. We just don't know what the points are as yet. I won't go through this because this again is available on the website, and it's the same as for the BA Arts. The other points I wanted to make, we've listed some of the career options here, and a lot of these career options are directly related to the professional pathways that we're talking about. Public affairs specialists in governments, parliamentary support roles, public relations, public affairs consultancy, social planning, economic planning and analysis, digital communication, community development. All of those are the types of degrees. But what I put over on the right hand side is, remember that many of the jobs that you will apply for in 4 or 5 years probably don't even exist yet. So we can put up a list, and students are always very interested. What kind of a job will this get me? And we can say, well, yeah, we could get you these kind of jobs, but it'll also get you jobs that I can't tell you because we don't even know whether they're there or not yet. And sometimes you get jobs that you wouldn't even, oh my God, how did I end up in this? And you find yourself in fantastic, wonderful directions, in employment without thinking or without knowing or having been able to anticipate that you were going to end up in that kind of a job. So again, a lot of research on this, that you, particularly anybody who's going into college in the next couple of years, will change jobs, roles and careers more than any generation before now, potentially up to 20 times. So don't think, oh, what job is this going to get me? And then that's the job I'm going to be in for the rest of your life, because you won't. You will switch and you move. And I suppose the point that is hugely important there is that adaptability and flexibility are absolutely essential. If you don't have that capacity to adapt and be flexible, and again, the World Economic Forum emphasizes that. So just to finish off, in summary, from this, you would be graduating with a more specific and a more vocationally oriented degree. You study carefully selected group of modules directly related to the particular pathway, but you also then have a unique in-demand set of transferable skills. And I'd advise anybody, if you don't want to believe me, I do have an honest face, but if you don't want to believe me, I would say do a Google search on transversal or transferable skills, and you'll begin to get a sense of how important they are becoming. On this, you do an 8-month work placement in Ireland or internationally. The main BA Arts course does a 6-month placement. We wanted students to have a longer placement so they get longer exposure to the workplace. On this, you don't do an Erasmus placement. You do a study abroad you don't do an Erasmus or a study abroad placement. You will also have direct input from workplace practitioners in 4th year, as I mentioned, and then you do, instead of doing the standard final year project, you do a complex problem solving project. Now, the planned intake on this is a maximum of 50 students. If more than 50 apply, I suppose we take a look at that number. But our aim, I suppose, the messages I'm trying to say here, the aim is to keep the numbers small on this, so that we can try and focus and work with the group of students on their skills. So the mainstream BA Arts program could take up to 500 students. We want this to be a bit smaller. So it's a different degree in terms of its content, but it's also a different type of degree because of how it combines core arts, humanities and social science subjects with transferable skills. So that's me, Katie. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to email me. My email address is there, chris.g. I never wanted that G in my email address, but I got stuck with it. chris.g.mcinerney@ul.ie, and I'll get back to you. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Brilliant. We have a question. Well, the first question was easily answered. Will this be recorded? And yes, it's going to be recorded, and I'll send a link to everybody who registered tomorrow morning, first thing. And then the second, I think, is an interesting one. Why would someone be better suited to this degree than a traditional arts degree? So we've spoken about, the differences, that this is a new way of studying, a new degree, but the person themselves, if they're out there, Chris, what type of person would be suited to this? I'm assuming a curious person, somebody who's aware, somebody who wants these type of skills, but is there anything else that you'd recommend somebody might identify in themselves?
Yeah, look, I suppose the thing, and I was the course director for the BA Arts for 3 years, so I'm very familiar with it. And I did an arts degree myself quite a number of years back, and always, advocate the benefit of an arts degree. It's great for people who know what they want to do. It's great for people who don't know what they want to do. So for somebody, the question is, why would somebody be better suited to this degree than a traditional arts degree? I suppose, number one, you might be more interested in the specific vocational pathway that's been offered. On a traditional arts degree, you tend to follow subject areas rather than a particular pathway. Now, I know, again, when I was an undergrad, it was much more the pathway idea was followed rather than the subject idea. So if you come into the BA Arts, you'll do mainly, most people will do a joint honours option. They'll take 2 subjects. If somebody is interested in teaching, yes, that's a specific vocational direction. But most other people who aren't planning to teach don't have a specific vocational direction. So I'd say that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're a type of person who is oriented towards problem solving, or you're the type of person who's oriented towards I suppose, building your communication strengths. If you're the type of person who is interested in critical thinking, this is going to enhance your ability to do all those things. Now, you will get some element of those on a traditional arts degree, but on this program, they are much more explicit. If you then want to be the person who can go to the workplace and show that I have discipline-specific capacity and I have skills capacity, that's who this would be suited for. So some people might do an arts degree because I'm really interested in history, or I'm really interested in English, or I'm really interested in politics. This is for people, I suppose, who are more interested in a pathway, but who also want to get these specific skills. And I'd say challenge yourself a little bit as well, and also maybe operate in a smaller class size for a good pathway. Yeah.
And a more focused kind of obviously pathway just by the nature of the program. And I think the fact that this has been crafted, it builds on the strength of an arts degree, you know, so it's an enhanced arts degree in that way that employers already value our broad arts degree, but this is an extra kick into kind of turbo gear, really, with all the extra bits that they're looking for and that students want as well. There's just one more question, and I'm happy to answer that, or maybe you want to take it, Chris, but do you arrange the
No.
work internship yourself?
No, with all students in UL do what's called a co-op or cooperative education placement. So those placements are organised for you by the university. Now, if you decide you want to organise your own placement because you know that there's a particular company or there's a particular employer that UL doesn't have a relationship with, yes, you can go and organise your own. But generally speaking, for the vast majority of students, UL organises that. I suppose this is one of UL's strengths, is that UL was the first, university in the country to introduce this type of work placement, and it's something that all students do. It's not something that's limited to particular courses. So there's a very big infrastructure and apparatus in the university to support that cooperative education. Before you'd even go on placement, you do courses, in first year, and that's why we have these particular modules as well that are designed to help you prepare for the workplace. I suppose the other difference in this, now that you brought up the internship, is we are very, very keen that students on this degree will be able to see the linkages between all of their different skill domains as such. So I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on 5 skill domains, which the skills that you get from your modules, so the academic content, the skills you get from your work placement, the skills you get from volunteering, potentially if you volunteer, the skills you get from being involved in a university club and society, which everybody should realise are hugely important. Employers love to see these on CVs. And then finally, the skills that you might get from other extracurricular activity. But too often, I suppose, in the past, the links between these different domains don't get made. And in some ways, this is nearly what's saying to students, and it goes back to the question, why would we be better suited to this degree? If you're somebody who wants to show off your skills, if you're somebody who wants to show off that you have capabilities and capacity to do something, this is for you, because we will be, making sure that you are profiled and shown off in the best possible light.
Yeah, it's kind of giving you all the tools you need in one place and guiding you towards them, you know, so you're really given the edge that you need. And also, even when it comes to co-op, Chris, I'd imagine the work placement, the students on this program will have an additional edge because they'll have been trained from the very beginning how to harness and capture and recognize the skills they're earning on the degree. Whereas sometimes on arts degree, students can find it hard to bridge that gap between the
Absolutely.
fantastic training they get
Yeah.
per subject and bridging that into maybe the workplace with a slightly changed set of skills, but using what they've learned already.
Yeah, like even if you look the whole area of digital skills, the Irish government, the European Commission, this has been emphasized and pushed so strongly to the point where, we do in our Centre for Transformative Learning have people dedicated to enhancing digital skills. But many students in university, even though people would say that they're very, very digitally savvy and that they have a high level of digital competence, aren't always that familiar with how to use an Excel program, an Excel worksheet, or they're not necessarily that familiar with AI. But when you go into the workplace on co-op, there's an expectation that you will have some background in this. So we want to make sure, again, through that applied digital skills module, that people, and again, that's something that, other courses don't have, but we want to make sure that the students are well grounded in digital skills, both for using them in the completion of their degree, but also when they go into the workplace on placement, that they can show off, well, I actually have a higher level of confidence than anybody else that you might take in. The other thing I did want to say in this, yes, the co-op office, the cooperative education office manage the workplaces, but this degree is also it's situated obviously within the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Science, but it's supported by a unit called the Transferable Skills Unit in the faculty. So that means, I suppose, it gets a bit more attention, than number one, than a bigger degree, but also it has a unit that's invested in its success. And the success of the program is the success of the students. If it doesn't work for the students, it doesn't work for us. So this whole program has been very much designed, it's student orientated. What is going to be the best for students coming out of UL? And it might sound like a sales pitch, but it's not. I actually genuinely believe that this mix of approaches it will be hugely beneficial for graduates from the program.
Yeah, it really lays out everything a person needs to succeed, which is exciting. So
Yeah.
I hope the people that joined us this evening found what Chris had to say interesting, and I'm sure they got a better insight into the program. As you mentioned, Chris, your email address was at the last slide there. It's on the program
Yeah.
page as well, and I've linked to the program page in the chat here too. So that's a good place to go and maybe delve more into which of the pathways you find the most attractive. But don't be afraid to email Chris or myself as well. You have my email address if you
Yeah.
have other
And
questions.
and I'm always happy if anybody wants to have a Teams call or if anybody wants to set up a meeting about it. I'm more than happy to meet with people, because sometimes, yeah, you can get an insight into something off a page or off a website. But if you want to discuss it or you have any questions subsequently, feel free to give me a shout and we can arrange a call.
Brilliant. I think so, unless there are any other kind of last minute questions, we'll probably say good evening and good night to everybody. And as I mentioned, I'll send a recording on to everybody in case there were any glitches or anybody's internet was down, they didn't hear us properly, they can watch back, or if there's portions of it that they want to watch back as well. So thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time to outline
Sure.
everything for us. And we'll be looking forward, hopefully some of the people on this call say hello to us at orientation in September when you start on the program as a first cohort joining professional pathways. So thank you all very much, and we'll say goodbye.